Welcome dear students of grade 12 economics class of St. Peter's College, Colombo 4 Negombo branch. Today we will be starting off the lesson number 5 of our grade 12 syllabus, which is National Accounting. So before starting with the new lesson, let me take you to the very first lesson you have learned. In that lesson, you can recall that we have learned there are two segments in the economics. One studies about microeconomics and the other segment studies about the macroeconomics. So as you know by now, what is microeconomics? It studies about the behavior of individual economic units separately. Say like the behavior of a particular individual, behavior of a particular selected household, behavior of a particular firm in the market. Likewise, we will be looking at these individual units separately. So that is called microeconomics. So if you think about the lessons we have learned so far, we have learned the demand and supply, the government intervention into the market through price controls. Likewise, so what the governments do, the acts of households in the market, and again we have looked at the behavior of production firms. So all these particular things come under microeconomics. We learned about all these microeconomic concepts, theories up to now. But from this lesson onwards, we will be moving into the macroeconomic segment of the economics subject. So let me first give you a brief introduction to macroeconomics before moving on to the new lesson. So what is macroeconomics then? Macroeconomics examines the behavior of economic aggregates. So in macroeconomics, we will be looking at the behavior of the economy as a whole, not like the individual units in an economy separately. We will consider the economy as a whole and look at the behavior of that particular individual as a whole in macroeconomics. It studies the functioning of the entire economy. So when studying about the macroeconomics, we will come across certain terms like macroeconomic variables, macroeconomic objectives, macroeconomic activities. So we'll be discussing all these things in the coming slides. So first let's look at what are macroeconomic objectives. As you know, when an economy is functioning, there are certain objectives that is expected to be achieved by these aggregate economic activities. So they are called the macroeconomic objectives. So here we have a list of macroeconomic objectives like full employment, economic stability, equity, economic growth, sustainable development, economic security, economic freedom, as well as economic efficiency. So I'll be giving you a very brief explanation on each of these objectives now, but you will be learning each of these objectives in very detail in the lessons to come. So first we have the full employment. What do you mean by full employment? It is utilizing all the resources in an economy at its full potential at the present production process. So if the economy is at full employment, there are no idle resources in that particular economy. So the economy is utilizing all the available resources at its full potential, at the full capacity in the present production. Next we have the economic stability. It is maintaining the economy without huge fluctuations, huge ups and downs. So as you know, uh, if you take an economy, it will not flow at the same level all the time. There can be ups and downs in the economy. Say like if we have some natural disasters, the economic activities may be little downturn at that particular time period. But in another period, you can have the economy performs really well. So there can be ups and downs in the economy. So that is called the maintaining the economy without major fluctuations is called the economic stability. When talking about economic stability, we can see there are two types. One is the internal stability and the other one is the external stability. So let's look at what are these. Under internal stability, we will be looking at the stability of the internal affairs of the economy. So there we will mainly concern about the price stability and the interest rate stability. So what are those? Price stability is about maintaining the general price level of the economy without major fluctuations or else without huge inflation level. Here we can say the country without having any inflation is not good at all. So therefore, if we take an economy, there must be some sort of inflation there. So therefore, but that particular inflation we are talking about should not be a very high inflation. It should be a low to moderate level inflation. That is, an affordable inflation rate should be there, and particularly that inflation level should be maintained at a stable level, like without having major ups and downs in the inflation. Say like this month we have a 6% inflation rate, but in the next month if we have 15-16% inflation rate, that is not price stability. That to maintain the inflation rate at a quite small range is acceptable. That is called the price stability. Then we have the interest rate stability, that is again maintaining the interest rate of the economy at a stable level. Then we have the external stability. In that we will be looking at how the stability of the external affairs of the economy. So in that case we will be looking at the exchange rate stability and the balance of payment stability. So what are they? You know the exchange rate, that is the amount of foreign currency we get for 1 unit of local currency. And you know, if the exchange rate is moving up and down drastically, we can say there is the exchange rate is unstable. Say like today the dollar exchange rate is like 280 rupees, say for example, and tomorrow if it becomes 320 rupees per USD, then there are huge fluctuations in the exchange rate. So without having such a fluctuation in the exchange rate, maintaining the exchange rate at a stable level is called the exchange rate stability. Then we have the balance of payment stability, and here we have to know about what is balance of payment. It reflects the difference between the currency inflows and outflows. So when a country is doing imports, the currency will outflow from the country, and with the when a country is engaging export trade, there are currency inflows to the country. The difference between these two is reflected in the balance of payment. So in the balance of payment there can be surpluses as well as deficits. If the import expenditure is higher than the export income, there is a balance of payment deficit. But if the export income is higher than the import expenditure, there is a surplus in the balance of payment. So if this deficit or the surplus is fluctuating drastically, then the balance of payment is not stable. So the idea of the stability in balance of payment means the maintaining the country's balance of payment without huge surpluses or deficits, to maintain the balance of payment at an acceptable level. Then we have the equity as another objective. It is treating fairly. All the people in the economy is treated fairly. Say like it's the equitable distribution of the income and wealth among all the people in a country. It says everybody is getting an equal share of the national income. So if the equity is maintained in a country, we may not see very large income disparities in the country, which means the difference between one particular individual's income and the other particular individual's income is not having a drastic difference. Next objective is economic growth. It is the continuous increase in the real gross domestic product, the country's national production. It is if the national production is continuously increasing, then the country is achieving economic growth. Next we have the sustainable development. It is about the long-term development without affecting the future resources, without affecting the resources available for the future generation to meet their needs. So as you know, when we are using resources, some of the resources might running out. So in that case, the future generations may not have the same resources to fulfill their needs and wants, because we have already consumed those resources and they have ended up. So sustainable development is something to do with the maintaining the resource, using the resources as well as maintaining the resources for our future generations as well. So it says the development without damaging the environment, or else without compromising the ability of the future generations to fulfill their needs and wants. So that is called the sustainable development. And if we don't have sustainable development, we may not be able to survive. Then we have the economic security. Now, as you know, the people who have employment can have their own way of living. They can earn money and fulfill their needs and wants. But at the same time, there are certain people in an economy who may not be able to find their own living, either because they are elderly people or else they are disabled. So due to those reasons, they may not be able to find their own living. So if no one is looking after themselves, there might be problems in their living standard. So as an economy, there is a responsibility towards these people to look after them. So economic security is about offering security for the people like these, the elderly people as well as disabled people, or else the unemployed people. So they also should have a proper living standard. In order to secure their living standard, a proper security must be given to them in a way of pensions or benefits to the disabled people. Likewise, the economic security can be provided. Then we have the economic freedom. It is the freedom for the business firms to take their decisions independently without affecting or without influencing. They might have the ability, they should get the ability to take their decisions. So that is called the economic freedom. Then the last one, we have the economic efficiency, and this objective, I think you can recall what is economic efficiency because we have learned this in the very first lesson also. So economic efficiency is achieving the level best or else achieving the maximum output from the given amount of limited resources. So in order to fulfill the economic efficiency, both conditions of productive efficiency and the allocative efficiency must be fulfilled. And as you know, productive efficiency is getting the maximum amount of goods and services from the limited resources in a least costly way, and the allocative efficiency is producing the most wanted mix of products without wasting the resources. So if both the conditions are satisfied, the economy can achieve the economic efficiency. So those are the macroeconomic objectives, and then we have the macroeconomic variables. These are the variables which affect the aggregate economic activities. So what are the aggregate economic activities? Like the aggregate production, aggregate consumption, aggregate savings, aggregate investments, aggregate demand, aggregate supply. Those are called the aggregate economic activities. When performing these activities, there are certain variables which affect these activities. So those are called the macroeconomic variables. And here we have a list of macroeconomic variables. One is the aggregate output, full employment, general price level, exchange rate, interest rate, balance of payment. So those are the macroeconomic variables which affect the economic activities. Okay, then a new concept coming in, which is the business cycle. What is a business cycle, or else we can term it as the economic cycle? It is the cyclical behavior of the real gross domestic product, or else the real output. How much is the goods and services produced by an economy? So due to various reasons, the amount of real output produced by the economy may not remain at a constant level over the time. There might be fluctuations in the real output. In some periods there might be very high level of output, but in some periods the output may drop drastically. So if that is the case, there can be fluctuations in the real output. So the pattern of these fluctuations is called the business cycle. It can be upward movements as well as downward movements. So here you have a diagram which shows about the business cycle. So in this diagram you can see there is an upward sloping straight line which shows you the long-term growth trend of the economy, and in a dotted line there is another zigzag shaped curve which shows the actual output, and in that actual output there are certain points marked. You can see here a point marked as trough, and here you have a peak. Again there are some faces marked with red color arrows, and also the blue color arrow, another one which is called the length of the business cycle is marked, and here you have a downward arrow which shows you something called recession, and here you have an upward sloping arrow which talks about the expansion or the recovery, and again you have negative output gap, positive output gap. So lot of things have been marked in this particular diagram. So let's see what are these particular points or as particular phases marked in this particular diagram. Okay, first one, the long run trend of the business cycle. So if we go back to the diagram, you can see the upward sloping straight line is the long-term growth trend. What is long-term growth trend of the business cycle? It is the potential output that the economy can produce in the long run at the full employment level. So if the country is employing all the resources at its full capacity, at its full potential, how much is the potential sustainable output that the economy can produce is shown by the long-term growth trend line. So it is the potential output but not the actual output. The possible output, or in other words. Then we have the phases of the business cycle. So if we take the business cycle, mainly there are four phases we can identify. One is the trough, another one is the peak, the third one is the recession period, and the fourth one is the expansionary period. So those are the four basic, four main phases of the business cycle, and let's look at what are these individually. So first we have the recession or the contraction phase of the business cycle. Now if we go to the diagram, where is the recession period? Here there is a downward sloping arrow which shows about the recession, and if you take the actual output, so as I told you, this is the potential output, but this is the actual output. Though it is the possible output, the economy is performing in this line. So when performing in this line, there is a particular phase called recession. In that phase, you can see the actual output is coming down. So in that particular period, the economic activities are getting contracted. The economic activities are coming down. The output is coming down. So why is that? Due to the decrease in aggregate demand, the aggregate output will come down. So that is happening at the recessionary period. So if the output is coming down, what happens? The actual GDP is declining, and with that the employment level of the economy also decreases. In other words, the unemployment level will increase. Generally, the recession period starts from the peak or else the highest possible actual output level. From that point onwards, coming towards the bottom is called the recession. Usually the economic recession will not take very long period. It usually takes less than 2 quarters, but if it prevails for a longer period than 1 year or more, it is called the economic depression. Then the next one is called the trough. So if you can remember the diagram, trough was the lowest possible point in the actual GDP curve, actual GDP line. So what is that then? It is the lowest situation of the actual output below the potential output. So all the economic activities are at the lowest possible level when the economy is at trough. So then you can see the lowest actual GDP as well as the highest level of unemployment, or else the employment level is very low at the trough. Then we have the expansion. Now if we go back to the diagram, expansion is headed upwards. Now we talked about the trough, which is the lowest possible level, and from that point the economy is recovering. So the recovery period is called the expansion. The economy is expanding its activities and headed towards the highest possible level, or else the peak. So in the expansion bit, so if you take an economy which comes to the trough, the economy may not remain at the trough forever. They will try to recover that and try to expand their activities and try to increase the GDP and come to the peak always. So in that period, economy is picking up again. So if that is the case, we can see the actual GDP is increasing and again the employment level starts increasing, or else the unemployment level is reducing. Generally it moves, it is a movement from the trough to the peak, and usually if we compare the size of the expansion, the recession and the expansion, expansionary period will be little lengthier than the recessionary period, which means the economy takes a longer period to pick up than it comes down. Then the last one is about the peak, or else the boom phase of the economic cycle. So as you can recall the diagram, there is a point which is marked at the highest possible level in the actual GDP. So that is called the peak, and in the peak economy performs really well. That is the maximum maximum GDP level recorded at the peak, as well as the highest level of employment will be recorded, or else the lowest level of unemployment will be recorded in the peak. Again, there is another important thing to be noted in this particular phase of the business cycle. If the economy performs well, the people are getting higher income, people are spending high amount of money for their consumption, and therefore the demand for goods and services will increase, and at the same time the general price levels also will be increasing when the economy is at peak. So if the general price level continues to be increasing, again there might be problems in the economy, and again the economy will start moving to the recessionary phase. So that is how the business cycle works, and from one peak to another peak is called the length of the business cycle. So if we go back to the diagram again, you can see this is the first peak and this is the second peak, and this length is called, this distance is called the length of the business cycle. And this length, the size of this, the length of this business cycle may vary from one business cycle to another business cycle. So similar business cycles will repeat over and over again, but the length of this particular business cycle will vary depending on different reasons from one business cycle to another business cycle. Right. Then we have the output gap. Here again we talk about three different types of output gap. One is the positive output gap, the other one is the negative output gap, and the third one is zero output gap. So if you go back to the diagram, you can see this is our potential output and this is the actual output, and there are differences when the actual output fluctuates around the growth trend. So if the actual output is higher than the potential output, we term it as a positive output gap. So you can see here the actual output is higher than the potential output, so it is termed as positive output gap. The opposite of that is the negative output gap. So here you can see this is the trend line and this is the actual output, which is lower than the trend line, the potential output. So therefore this gap is termed as the negative output gap. So if you take a point like this where the potential output equals to the actual output, there are no gaps, so that particular point is called a zero output gap. Then when operating the macroeconomy, there are certain policies to be implemented. So here again we will be looking at these policies in very brief. So we have the monetary policy, which looks at the money supply and the interest rate of the country. Then the next one is the fiscal policy, which talks about the government revenue and the expenditure, or else in other words that is the government budget. And there are supply side policies which focuses on expansion of output in the short run, mainly through methods like privatization. Then we have the income policies, which is the managing the increasing wage rates as well as prices. And then we have the direct control policies, where the government intervenes to the market through policies like maximum price regulations, maximum wage regulations, minimum wage regulations. And then the last one, we have the foreign trade policies, which focuses on managing the balance of payment through imports and exports. So this is the introduction to the new lesson, and we have learnt about lot of things about on macroeconomics in very brief. So in the next lesson we'll start off with the national accounting. So thank you very much and God bless you.